Tucker Carlson, in one of his recent shows, called for gunning down protesting members of Black Lives Matter. Now, before we get to that portion of his commentary, I think it's worth noting that he mocks the idea that black people are more likely to be shot and killed by police in America because there's an abundance of data proving him wrong. But nonetheless, here's his argument.
So they told us that a cop shot Jacob Blake in the back for no apparent reason. And by the way, Jacob Blake was unarmed. He was helpless. They just pulled him out of a lineup and shot him because that's what America's like. Kamala Harris then jumped in and said she was, quote, proud of Jacob Blake, like he was a civil rights hero, like he was shot for being the wrong color, as so often happens in the systemically racist country.
So he was being sarcastic, but it certainly does happen in this systemically racist policing system. In fact, why don't we actually look at the data? It's readily available. Tucker Carlson works at Fox News. They have way more resources than we have. Maybe put a producer on that, right? If you actually genuinely care about getting facts to people, but of course he doesn't. So look at this graph. This graph specifically looks at the rate of police shootings in the United States between 2015 to October of 2021, and it's per capita based on per million of the population. The first bar in the graph represents black people getting shot and killed by cops, and it's 37 out of 1 million black people. Then you go to the second highest bar, and it's Hispanic. What a shocker, 28 out of 1 million. White is only 15. Now, I wanna get to a point where we minimize police shootings across the board, regardless of race, right? We want justice for all. We want people to have their day in court, even if they're suspected of a crime. But clearly, the numbers per capita prove that African Americans, black people, are disproportionately shot and killed by cops in America. So I just wanted to provide that context since Tucker Carlson couldn't be bothered to look for that and provide that in his analysis. Now, with that said, let's go to his disgusting comment regarding what should be done with protesters.
So this is what Kenosha looked like the night that Kyle Rittenhouse arrived to help defend local businesses. Well, that's not a civil rights protest. That's not people fighting back against oppression, systemic racism. That's just people destroying things they didn't build. That's people wrecking our civilization. In no normal country would that be allowed. It would be put down immediately with force. That's why we have police. You can't allow that, because if you do allow that, people get killed, as they did.
They should be put down immediately by force. Let's remember that quote. I want to come back to it, but first, John.
Yeah, I don't know where you start. Every second of that is an issue. It's all the dog whistles of they're destroying things they didn't build. They're doing it to our civilization, people like Tucker and his audience. Look, his entire shtick, and he is exactly. I know he's supposed to be some sort of independent thinker. He's a different sort of conservative. That could have just been an O'Reilly sketch from like 10 years ago. It's exactly the same thing. Is denying the truth of a thing that they know to be true and like being true. That's what they do. They pretend, oh, it's a systemic racism. Like they know that the system has been set up to benefit certain types of people and go after others. They know that, they like that, they want that. They spend all of their time trying to get people to be supportive of that by terrifying them. Tucker Carlson himself has spent a year and a half doing that, continually talking about how mobs are gonna come for you. This week, talking about how mobs are gonna come for you and there's nothing you're gonna be able to do when the mob comes to your door. They're trying to instill and strengthen race-based fears and hatreds. That's what they do, and then pretend that it even exists.
Now, listen, I'm empathetic to anyone who sees video like that and thinks, hey, what those people are doing in the video, that's wrong, right? I disagree with it. They shouldn't be starting fires, they shouldn't be breaking into businesses. But I also think that it's important to be consistent. And that we don't see that consistency with people like Tucker Carlson. So just imagine, imagine for a second, and I'm gonna help you imagine, I'm gonna help you visualize what a fair Tucker Carlson would be like. A Tucker Carlson who on one hand condemns violence if it's carried out by the left wing, but also does the same if the violence is carried out by the right wing. Because we know that violence certainly is carried out by the right wing in this country. So let's reimagine a Tucker Carlson segment where he's actually fair. Let's watch.
So this is what Kenosha looked like the night that Kyle Rittenhouse arrived to help defend local businesses.
They broke through the police line and people are going in. The doors are open.
Well, that's not a civil rights protest. That's not people fighting back against oppression. That's just people destroying things they didn't build. That's people wrecking our civilization. In no normal country would that be allowed. It would be put down immediately with force. You can't allow that, because if you do allow that, people get killed, as they did.
Now, of course,
I mean, that's just too good.
Tucker Carlson would never be consistent.
No.
Tucker Carlson has gone out of his way to blame the Capitol riots on Antifa. Then he turned around and said, no, it was meant to set up the right wing. I mean, like, he's changed his narrative.
It's all a plant.
Yeah, it's all a plant.
They're political prisoners.
Yeah, the Capitol riots happened.
Yeah.
And these are Trump supporters who were incited by the right wing to try to overturn the results of our democratic process because they didn't like the results. These are people who are chanting, hang Mike Pence. I mean, so.
Why weren't they shot?
What?
Why weren't they gunned down?
And let me be clear, I don't think that those people should have been put down immediately. I believe in justice. They should have their day in court, and many of them have had their day in court.
Yeah.
But for Tucker Carlson, hey, if you're protesting police violence and some people take advantage of that situation to riot, everyone should be put down, unacceptable. But if there are riots in the nation's capital, that's totally fine as long as I agree with them. That's what Tucker Carlson's saying. He's not consistent at all.
Yeah, and in fact, he will spend the entire year since January 6th defending them, putting together whole InfoWars style documentaries about how great these people are and how they've been set up and it's not fair. To add to the list of the dog whistles, by the way, you put down animals if that wasn't clear enough. So weird, total slip of the tongue that he said that, even though it was scripted, it was put in a teleprompter, and he very specifically chose those words. No, we know what he's there for. We know what, like, it's become, I guess, a bit blasé now to just point out that he is a fascist. That's what it is. There are hierarchies in society that he supports. Age hierarchies, political hierarchies, religious hierarchies, gender and racial and religious hierarchies that should be enforced by the state. That's it. It doesn't mean that they genuinely love soldiers or love cops. They'll beat a cop to death if they stand against conservatives.
Yep.
But they're there to protect conservatives. That's what they're there for. And so no, there's no consistency. He will flip-flop anyway as long as it results in people like him maintaining power. That's what he's there for. That's why he has an audience.
Exactly right.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.